I'm Emma. I work at a charity called World Horse Welfare and run the IG programme there. My background actually isn't in fundraising, it's in campaigning and marketing. So I'm not a career fundraiser, and I've got quite a long career behind me. So I've been in fundraising for a couple of years now. So it was great to start working with C6 on this project. So World Horse Welfare actually is also traditionally a campaigning organisation. We've been going for about 100 years, and our foundation is in campaigning. So from a fundraising perspective, that's always been really key to what we do. But with this particular project, and thinking of our IG programme more generally, what we're going to talk about today is supporter recruitment and how I learned as someone relatively new to fundraising about how to stop worrying about it and enjoy the process. So, we're going to talk a bit about a project that we did with C6 here, and we had very clear KPIs. So we don't need to really dig into the outcomes, but I know some people like data, and so it's useful to see the outcomes of this project, and we're going to start with, just land on this slide for a minute. But we had a really clear strategy here, really clear KPIs. We have, as a fundraising department, a clear strategy of growth. We need, just in the last year, we've seen, or in the last few months of this year, actually, we've seen a 43% increase in calls to our welfare line, which is pretty staggering. And we think that's rising living costs. So if you're worrying about this session at all, just use it as a bit of a checklist. And so if we turn to these sort of outcomes, we focus this campaign on recruiting new contactable leads. So these outcomes would look very different if our brief was about driving income, but it wasn't. It was about contactable leads. So filling that top of funnel. So we can dig into those perhaps a little bit later. So to start with, we're just going to ask people a poll. You probably already see it. It looks like you've already seen this, because I can see that 75% of you are involved with supporter recruitment and lead generation. So are we cool to move on? Yeah. And this is the question to fill in now, the poll now, which is your role directly or indirectly responsible for achieving the supporter recruitment objective. It would be really interesting to see how many of you are responsible for that. Okay, everyone, great. This is relevant, that's good. So, the internal challenges that we faced in the lead up to working with C6. I suspect that a lot of you will be able to relate to this. So we could see the untapped potential out there. We were seeing, we are faced with exactly the same challenges that the rest of the sector is faced with, that we are, it is expensive. We've seen from the other presentations this morning that it is expensive to recruit new supporters, and that we were seeing fewer supporters, although giving slightly more in recent months, but our supporter, the number of people giving is slightly declining. So we could see the untapped potential in the digital space to recruit new supporters. In-house, the expertise that we needed didn't actually exist. We've got some really, really great skills sets and really knowledgeable people within the charity, but the specific expertise that we needed for a project like this didn't exist. And we're also a really, really stretched team. I suspect everybody in the charity sector also faces that challenge. We have a very, very big to-do list of things and a relatively small and quite inexperienced team as well. And we also are very keen to test. And testing is really exciting and a great opportunity, but it's also quite nerve-wracking. And when you're looking at your budgets and thinking about how you're going to spend those best, testing comes with risk. And so we wanted to test, but we didn't want to waste. And that's when I think you have to look at your budget and decide how you're going to spend it, whether you're going to spend it on reliable, trustworthy partners, or whether you're going to take those risks yourself. And we chose a brilliant partner, I'm pleased to say. So what are our expectations for this particular pilot? So we wanted an end-to-end pilot reach, recruitment, and then re-engage with those people. We were looking to develop, bring on 5,000 new supporters, which was quite an ambitious target. And we wanted to set up benchmarks for 2024, so look at what was possible to achieve so that we had realistic benchmarks to go forward into the next stage and other phases of this same work. And obviously optimizing cost per lead was critical as well. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Akshay. I work for C6 Digital. So as Emma said in the previous slide, that the idea was a pilot's end-to-end setup. What is an end-to-end setup? So the three key parts. The first one is reach. So we looked into different ads, different ways of like bringing people into the pilot. Recruitment, which is hand-raiser, petitions, Facebook lead forms, just looking into how to recruit, but also thinking about daisy chains. What do people do after they've signed an action or participated in an action? And then re-engage. So we had a welcome journey as well, just taken 3 screenshots of 3 different asks we had there. So the survey, the first one, then a bit of like engaging with existing content, sharing it on their social media, but then also asking them to participate in a higher bar ask with like writing to MPs. So that's kind of like the setup we went for. Before we go into the nitty-gritty, I think I just want to repeat what Emma said, that the idea here is we're not going to talk about what the success of the output was, but just thinking all of these things through, because it's a pilot, you're trying to prepare yourself, trying to set yourself up for future plans and objectives. Here the idea is how do we push boundaries? How do we play but also learn from the work we do? Ooh. Sorry. Put a picture of Idris Elba just to calm everybody down before we get into the details. So, intense stuff. Data and tracking. I was supposed to animate that slide so you don't have to read all of it in one go, but just focus, stay with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to go through that, right? First one, tracking. I think it's important if you're going to set up a pilot and get some data out of it, we need to know what our metrics are going to be. Quite often, we're in a rush to do something, to see the numbers, that we don't actually think about where are we going to measure success, where are we going to measure failure, where are we going to try to tweak numbers, look at benchmarks. So identifying those data points beforehand is important. I think also making sure that those data points you have accurate information on. So it's not just a conversion rate as per Google Analytics, because cookies, people are not using it. Just think about where are you going to get that information from. Important, right? Second, data integrations. Quite often, we put the pressure on our data team and just think we will just do stuff and then ask them to give us data. But manually collecting data takes time. It adds risks of errors. It adds biases of what the data person is doing. It's good to think about how are you going to automate, how much of the data you can automate, and how are you going to do that. And just make sure that it's timely, or you know what the time chains are. So is it the data is updated every morning? Should you be checking in the morning to make sure you have everything? Is it every week? Just think that through. Third one, optimizing. To optimize your page is to optimize your journey, to optimize for any of the objectives. I think it's good to have those timely reports and make sure that you have some kind of a plan in place for regular check-ins. When are you looking at the data? When are you going to make the decision to do a new test? Are you getting the data in time before that? Just keeping that in mind. Optimizing goes hand in hand with regular data checks. Finally, fourth, benchmarking. I think it's very easy to look at some numbers and say, I've sent an email, got an open rate of 30%, that's my new benchmark. That's not how it works, right? You want to stress test it. Try a few different things. Push it in different directions. Set the boundaries. See what the ups and downs are, and then you find the benchmark, and that could be a starting point. Obviously, you will optimize. You'll try to go beyond the benchmark, but just good to stress test it. Don't just go with the first number, good or bad. Just put a screenshot. I don't think people can see it because these screens are small, but that's a plausible dashboard, which is a cookie-less reporting, kind of like Google Analytics, just more accurate. And also put a funnel there, which shows 35% click on share buttons on the daisy chain, and then 0.05, I think, percent of like donation clicks but just to give an idea of like what we were looking at. The second part of what we did, once we have your data in place, you know what you're looking for, you've got your base foundation very well set up. Now it's time to actually test, right? Now it's time to play. You've got your learning mechanism in place. Now it's time to play. So 3 things that I wanted to highlight. I think there's a lot to do. You can look at your daisy chain. You can look at your welcome journeys. All of those 3 steps in the setup, which is reach, recruit, and re-engage. You can play a lot. But the 3 that we kind of focused on, or also wanted to share here, is testing. We tested Facebook lead forms versus EN engaging networks pages. I think I'm just going to leave this group with like questions. One of the things we hear is that Facebook lead forms definitely converts better than taking people off Facebook and asking them to sign up on a different page. In our case, it was engaging networks. People also say that the quality is different, but the quantity is better on Facebook leads form. We didn't get that result, and we spent a lot of money. So just going to leave that as a question. Is it true? Is it always true? Maybe in some cases, maybe not in other cases. The other question was quality of leads from EN versus Facebook, which is also a discussion. We need a long-term analysis because our quality seemed the same. The people going into welcome journey, they're responsive. Thought about the usual. We were like, well, we're playing. Let's just put everything to question, right? Why not? So the idea that campaigns versus value-based hand raisers, where you ask people to pledge, where you ask them to join a generic statement, we put that to test as well. We got much better results and much meaningful kind of quality leads on actually just pushing the campaigns. We tried the hand raiser. It did not work for Facebook ads. It did not work on conversions on the page, not as well as our campaign did. Now, just putting just put some numbers there as well. The quantity of leads, it was 50% cheaper to get people to sign up to a campaign rather than a value-based hand raiser. Finally, Facebook ads. I just wanted to put it there. I think instead of just doing Facebook ads, a lot of organizations, a lot of groups would just pick up something from the organic post, see what did well, and put it up on Facebook. We went with a bit more research angle, just went to CrowdTangle, looked at like, this is our topic, what kind of pictures are doing very well, try to replicate those pictures from our photo library. And then also just looked at dynamic creative, so just pushing a lot of stuff onto Facebook and letting Facebook handle some of the testing. Placement and audiences, I think we went the other way. A lot of people focus on audience and try to define it. We went with broad. A lot of people go with general placement, just put it everywhere. We went focus with just 1 or 2. Just tried to do that and got really good results. Went with a bit of logic, not just randomly picking out of thin air, but tried to do that and we got good results. So another thing to put out there in terms of if you're playing and learning, why not? Because everybody uses idioms at these conferences. There's an Indian idiom that says, if nothing makes sense, then it's lentils being distributed in shoes. I put that into an AI image maker. That's what happens. If none of that makes sense, what we've just talked about, I also got a checklist just for you to think about later on. If anybody needs that, it's just a checklist of what we thought of. Just think of the page and the daisy chain journey setup. We thought about pixels because we were using Facebook ads, and then also firing pixels when people have opted in, just so that Facebook can also optimize for that. We looked at the page actions tracking setup, avoided the rogue data, went with cookie-less tracking, looking at meaningful autoresponder ask. We didn't go with a standard thank you email that says share the campaign. We actually went with a survey. We thought let's also learn about these people we're bringing in, not just get the signups. And that's kind of what gave us a hint at the quality of leads as well. We also set up a welcome journey. I'll be honest, we didn't have enough time to actually test welcome journeys. Would be an amazing thing to do over time, but because it's so far away from when people sign up and it takes so long, I think you need much more built-in time for testing those journeys. What are you testing? One variable at a time. I think everybody knows this, but just as a checklist, make sure you're not throwing 3 things for a test and then trying to figure out what worked and what did not work. Just one thing at a time. And then the standard, collate data, evaluate, and find a new test, repeat. Some learnings.
So I think the first one is obviously how to tailor your communications, you're asked to a really focused demographic and think about who those people are and what you want to what relationship you want to have with them. But I think the most important thing is this kind of idea of collaboration really paying off. So we were really worried about having all of our kind of ducks in a row in order to kind of kick this project off. And we kind of procrastinated for quite a while, quite a few months before we did it, because we were like, oh, our systems aren't ready, our skills aren't there, we've got so many questions. And then as soon as we got into the room with, as soon as I got into the room with Akshay, it was like, he started asking all the right questions and started sort of making sense of all of the things that we were struggling to make sense of. And that was really enlightening, because once you kind of collaborate with people who have been through this process lots and lots of times, it kind of doesn't matter if all of your ducks aren't in a row, because this is a pilot, this is a test, this is kind of testing your systems, testing your knowledge, testing your budget, all of the things that you need to consider when you're embarking on a project. If you do a pilot like this, you test all of these things, and then we can go into the next one much stronger. And actually what it's done for us is given us this, the kind of impetus part of this process has been encouraging us to do this digital architecture audit, which is a process we're going through now, which is a really positive process for our charity. So it's raised lots of questions, whilst also having this amazing result at the end of it. And actually the campaign result, I know that you want to talk about the process, but of course we're really proud of the result that we got as a result of this kind of amazing collaboration. So if you're working with the right trusted partners, then if your ducks aren't quite in a row, you might end up getting to that place faster because you've got this expertise at your fingertips. So that would be the best lesson we learned, actually. And then obviously being prepared to optimize the opportunities that you're presented with at the end of it. So we did, the results were really good. 93% of the people that opted in at the beginning have still opted in now. So we lost a very small percentage of those. And we didn't set out to get donations, but we have got donations on the back of that. So that's really, really great for the charity.
I think we're running out of time, so I'll be really fast. Just lessons learned. I think, as I already said, challenging norms. I like to question everything, try it out, see where it goes, right? A rabbit hole of testing. It's good to know where to stop. I think sometimes we're just pushing it too much and be like, oh, maybe we can test this as well. Oh, we've got 10 more days of money. Let's just test another thing. So I think just keeping that in mind. Inception of data. It's just a lot of data after data, data under data in every direction. I think just need to focus. I need to stay focused. I don't actually know what the last line means. I put it 5 days ago on this presentation, but it sounds philosophical. But don't be biased around test results. That's it.
Thank you. We have about 5 minutes for questions, and we probably won't get through all of them, but we'll try. You showed that data dashboard. Where is that from? What is that?
The presentation is gone. It's plausible.
About the data dashboard that you showed.
It's called plausible. It's just like Google Analytics. Yeah, plausible. Yeah, it's like Google Analytics, but it's not based on cookies, so the data is more accurate.
How does it track data?
I'm going to have to refer to somebody else to answer that.
Okay, all right.
I'm looking at Jack. It goes through.
And then you mentioned data integrations. Just curious how many different places the data was held. When you're integrating, like, are you talking about engaging networks in one other database or engaging networks in other sources of data?
I think in this case, it was just Facebook Forms and Facebook and engaging networks.
Okay, cool. Would you recommend a standard sign-up form on Facebook? Like, should everybody just have a sign-up for our newsletter on Facebook? Or just because you were saying, like, it's better to keep people on Facebook?
I think that's the assumption. For us, that was not the case. That's what I was saying. That I think for us, the bringing people onto engaging networks actually worked equally well as having Facebook leads form. So, I wouldn't necessarily.
So sending them over to a sign-up page is still...
Yeah, I think it's something about the content, how you're driving people, how the page experience is. I think maybe it's okay.
Okay. And then did you use engaging networks tracking links?
Yeah, all two.
Okay, that's good. Was the tracking all Ian based? But not all Ian based. Was some of the tracking all because you had pixels and stuff like that?
Yeah, we used the Ian one as well as plausible, and which worked with UTMs and stuff. So I think we really looked into all of our UTMs and tracking parameters.
What place do you think value-based hand raisers have in lead generation activity, and are users tiring of them?
Well, it was a value base. So we tested 2, didn't we, to begin with? And we changed our messaging halfway through. So, or we did, was it 10 days of testing on one and then moved on to a values-based ask, and that one was equally as successful.
Yeah, I think because we did test after test, one after the other. Sorry. I think the value-based hand raiser did not necessarily bring that many people on, and because the window was short, I think maybe we ran it longer. It might have. But where is the place? I don't know. I think the world is moving on. I think there's so much happening in our politics and everything around us. It just is. Values are very clear already. I think it's time to people are saying there's not meaningful actions. Personally, I think, being an activist myself, I think it's maybe biased answer, but I think it's not something that people want. It's not the first step anymore. It doesn't feel like the right first step for organizations whose objective is to actually push for change. So there's a mismatch, I think, between what you're asking people to do and where do you want to take them after that.
All right, one last question. Was your Facebook audience targeting broad, or did you leverage different data like lookalikes and other based?
We were excluding people, but we were not going with lookalikes. We went full broad, everyone as a starting point, and then we had surveys and stuff to see the reporting on Facebook on what demographics were coming in, and then also through surveys what people were taking action. We kind of tried to track them down and zero in on them based on the data we were getting, rather than start with segmented audience.
And then last question, what did the Facebook form look like compared to the EN form?
Facebook form does not really have much option for you to customize. So I think if you just go look at the sample of how it looks, that's what you can do. The only thing we added was we did add a fake opt-in, because Facebook does not, if somebody's signing up on Facebook forms, means that they're opting in as per Facebook's description. But we thought that reduced the quality of leads, so we actually said, put an extra checkbox that said, I want to opt in, and then filtered those people just to increase a bit of quality.
And I know the answer to this one, which is, the question was, did you integrate Facebook leads to the Engaging Networks platform? And Akshay is heroic in being able to figure out how to connect the Facebook lead forms to Engaging Networks, because the shifting sands of Facebook, it makes it technically kind of. You really have to be a Facebook genius, I think, or just Akshay. I don't know, but he's helped other clients as well. So yes, they did.
Don't take that back with you. I'm not a Facebook genius.
He's amazing. It's incredible. Anyway, okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause.